Hey everybody, back for another edition of Math Muscle. Today's topic is completing the square. Useful skill for a couple of reasons, but today we're just going to talk basic skills on completing the square. So let's get started. Completing the square is taking a quadratic function and putting it in this form. Right? Y equals a. This is the same a that you'll see over here in this general form. Quantity x minus h squared plus k. And h and k have very special properties, which we will talk about in another video. But for today, I'm going to show you this skill to go from the green equation over here to the white equation. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so a couple of examples here. We're going to go ahead and start with number 1. All right, I have y equals x squared plus 10x minus 4. We're going to complete the square, and the first step in completing the square is always to take and to group your quadratic term and linear term and to factor out the leading coefficient of the quadratic term. In this case, it's a 1, so we don't have to factor anything out. So I'm going to take x squared plus 10x, and I'm going to add a number, which I'll describe to you how to find that number in just a second. And if I add that number, I also have to subtract that same number right here in order to balance the equation. So in essence, what I'm doing is I am adding 0, which does not change the original equation at all. So we have to figure out a special number that's going to go in both of those places such that we can take this original equation and again put it in that a x minus h quantity squared plus k form. And the reason for that form will come in another video, as I said before. So just for now, it's just rote skill and work with that. So what we do to find this unknown number is we take half of our linear coefficient. So half of our linear coefficient is 5, and then we square that number. So this number here will be 25. We add and we subtract. So technically speaking, we have added 0. We've added 25 and then subtracted it away. Now the reason we do that is because we can compact this trinomial within the parentheses into a factored squared binomial. This would be x plus 5 quantity squared. And the 5 here is this 5 right here. It's always half of that linear coefficient. Okay, so I've got x plus 5 squared, and then I'm going to have minus 29. I just took negative 4 minus 25. So now I have this in the form y equals a, which is 1. I have h, which is negative 5, and I have k, which is negative 29. So h is negative 5 because, as we said before, we have ax minus h, quantity squared, plus k. So minus h would have to be minus a negative 5 to get a positive 5 within those parentheses. Okay, let's try another example. All right, this example is slightly more difficult. The reason why is because we're going to take half of negative 7, which will not be a nice number for us. So again, we're going to take out the linear the coefficient of the quadratic, which is a 1. No work to do there. We're going to take and group the quadratic and linear terms, and we're going to add a number here. That number will be 1/2 of the linear coefficient squared. We're going to add 3, and we're also going to subtract that same number. Let's find that number. Half of 7, or negative 7, is negative 7/2, and if we square that, we get 49/4. 49/4. Okay, so let's do a little bit of work with this. Clean this up just a tad. So y will equal x minus 7/2 squared plus, I'm going to write 3 as 12/4 minus 49/4. So we can write this in the form x minus 7/2 squared, and that will be minus, oh boy, now I got to add 30, would that be 37 fourths. Okay, so A again is 1. B, now in this case, will just be 7 halves. And C will equal negative, that should be a 37 fourths. There you have it. We've now completed the square on those first two examples. Let's get to an example where A is a number other than 1. Okay, example 3. A is a number other than 1. Now, I've flipped y over to the other side, but just for preference, I'm going to bring it back over here. I'm going to factor a 2 out. That leaves me with x squared. Now, what would 16 become if I factor out a 2? It would become a negative 8. Okay, and I'm going to add half of 8 squared, and then, of course, I'm going to leave the 32 on the outside. And I'm also going to then, like I've done before, subtract this number. But now, here's the kicker with A equaling another number other than 1. I'm not subtracting that same number. I'm subtracting 2 times that same number, right? Because this number here is not just that number. It's 2 distributed to that number. Okay, so let's find that number. We're going to take negative 8 divided by 2. That's negative 4. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to take negative 8 divided by 2, which is negative 4. I'm going to square it. That's going to give me 16. So I'm going to get y equals 2 times the quantity x minus 4 squared. And then out here, of course, I'm going to have a 16 as well. So it's going to be minus a 32 minus another 32. Oh, wow, that was interesting. Okay, so I will have minus 64. Now we've completed the square. A equals 2. B equals 4, and C equals negative 64. Okay, one more example. We'll go ahead and do that, and that'll be it for today's examples. All right, so number 4, I'm going to factor out a 3. Now notice that I have a 0 out here. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite factoring out a 3. I get x squared minus, if I divide 54 by 3, I think I get 18x plus a number plus 0 minus 3 times a number. Again, these numbers are the same. Let's find it. Half of negative 18 is negative 9. I square that, I get 81. Okay. Now this should start to take hold, and you should really actually probably enjoy this process. It's quite fun. 81 times 3 is 243. And there I've got this form, y equals a x minus h quantity squared plus k. Therefore, a equals 3, and b equals 9, and c equals negative 243. Okay, guys, that's completing the square basics. If you have an example the instructor has given you that you're not quite sure what to do with, and these examples don't help you, please comment and let me know. Give me the example. I'll run through it, and hopefully I can explain it so that you understand. So, hope it went well. Let me know if you got any other questions. Have a great day, and see you in the next video.